Amidst a raging fight with Russia, Ukraine has vowed to take back Crimea, a territory that was annexed by Moscow in the year 2014. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Tuesday said that taking Crimea back would help re-establish world law and order. Zelensky's remarks were made during Crimea summit, an international conference hosted in Kyiv aimed at restoring Ukraine's territorial integrity and end Russia's annexation. The summit was attended by top officials of 46 countries, including bloc members and all NATO allies. Almost all were participating online, but Polish president attended the meet during a visit to Kyiv. And during the meet, the Ukrainian president said that it all began with Crimea and it will end with Crimea. Listen in.
To overcome terror, to return guarantees and security to our region, to Europe, to the whole world, it is necessary to gain victory in the fight against Russian aggression. Therefore, it is necessary to liberate Crimea from occupation. Where it all began, it will end there. This will be the effective resuscitation of world law and order.
Zelensky further added that Russia had turned Crimea into an ecological disaster zone and a military springboard for aggression, using it to fire 750 cruise missiles at cities and communities. In fact, the Western leaders have warned Russia against annexing other parts of Ukrainian territory. This amid reports that Russia is planning to do so in various occupied areas. Speaking at the forum, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that the international community will never accept Russia's illegal annexation of Ukrainian territory. Listen.
Our message is clear. Any sham referenda or other attempts to alter the status of parts of Ukraine territory will never be recognized.
While the French president raised the degrading humanitarian rights in Crimea and the ongoing abuse of human rights in the peninsula.
France has always supported the independence, the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Ukraine and will continue to do so. The occupation of Crimea by Russia has the direct consequence of a clear degradation of the humanitarian situation and the respect of human rights.
Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson further warned and said that Putin is preparing more annexations and more shams referendums.
Once he grabbed Crimea, Putin deployed more and more Russian forces in the peninsula, turning the territory into an armed camp from which to threaten the rest of Ukraine. And so Crimea duly became the launch pad for the invasion on the 24th of February.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged the leaders to put more pressure on Putin. Blinken was among dozens of leaders and international organizations who took part in the summit to show their support for Ukraine.
We must keep raising the costs and international pressure on President Putin and his enablers until the rights of the Ukrainian people and their sovereign country are respected. And we must continue to provide humanitarian, security, and diplomatic support for Ukrainians bravely defending their rights.
Now let us understand why Crimea is crucial for Moscow. The control of Crimea gives Moscow an upper hand in war against Ukraine, as it helps Russia in supplying ammunition and reinforcements for its troops fighting in Ukraine. It also allows Putin to dominate Ukraine from the south, where Crimea is located, apart from northeast and the southeast borders. It also enables access to the naval base at Sevastopol, home to Russia's Black Sea Fleet, which is extremely crucial for its naval security. And for more on this, we are now being joined by Fred Flitz from Washington, D.C. He's the president of Center for Security Policy, a former NSC chief of staff. Welcome to the broadcast, Fred.
Good to be here.
Now, the Ukrainian president has vowed to take back Crimea. He has further said that any attack would provoke a powerful response. How do you assess these statements made by Zelensky?
Well, this is a solemn anniversary in Crimea, commemorating the anniversary in Ukraine, the anniversary of the Ukraine state and the outbreak of fighting in February. This is dangerous wishful thinking. The Ukrainians do not have anywhere near the military firepower to take back Crimea. They have the initiative right now, the Donbas region. They may take back some areas, but the eventual outcome of this conflict looks very negative for the Ukrainians long term. They will not win a war of attrition. The Russians can probably wait them out. I think the Russians are suffering right now because of gains that the Ukrainians are making with arms they're getting from the West. But there's a real problem in the United States. I don't know whether the people of India realize this. There is really increasing pressure on politicians to answer the question, how long will the U.S. provide this military aid to Ukraine? And if it was to be reduced, the Ukrainians are going to start losing. So I think there are some complicated issues here, and Ukraine taking back Crimea is frankly not in the cards.
Right. Fred, now the Russian security forces claim that a female Ukrainian spy carried out the assassination of Daria Dugina. Meanwhile, Ukraine still denies any involvement in this. What kind of implications could this incident have on the war?
Well, you know, it's related to another issue that the Ukrainians are claiming that they're not being allowed to win. They're not being given the weapons to attack in Russia, and they're being discouraged from conducting other types of attacks in Russia. Well, if things like this were to happen, if there were assassinations and bombings in Russia proper, if the Ukrainians were to start bombing north of the Ukrainian border into Russia, I think it would bring a much stronger and unpredictable Russian response, possibly including tactical nuclear weapons, especially if Russian targets were being attacked. I hope we don't see a string of terrorist bombings going on within Russia. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Right. Now, U.S. Embassy in Kyiv is also urging Americans to leave Ukraine, as they say that Russia is now targeting civilian infrastructure. If it does happen, what implications will this have on the ongoing war?
There are reports that that's going to happen this week, possibly starting today, because this is Ukraine's Independence Day, and that the Russians may have decided to attack targets in Kyiv and other major cities on this particular day. I think the U.S. government and other governments are taking precautions because they think there's a likelihood this will happen. Apparently, the U.S. has intelligence that this will happen, but I think this is not part of a new Russian campaign to take Kyiv or other cities outside the Donbas.
Right. I would like to ask you one last question. Now, it has been 6 months since the Russian invasion in Ukraine began. What is your assessment? Do you think that the war will prolong for 6 more months?
It looks like it's going to project that longer. I'm very concerned that the Ukrainians cannot win a long war of attrition, that will give the Russians a slow but steady advantage. And look, what I've been arguing, and I do programs with Russian commentators, there has to be talk of a ceasefire, even if there's not a formal agreement. And frankly, I think India could play a role in this by pressing both the Russian and Ukrainian governments to just stop the fighting, stop the killing.
Thanks, Fred, for getting us up to speed on this. We'll, of course, be tracking this throughout the day. Thanks very much.
Good to be here.